If only I had spidey senses, so I can tell when something's wrong. Oh, and I'm set to protect this heart from breaking into pieces. Where's my hammer? Where's the shield? Oh, the strength to carry the weight of the world. Fly high into the sky. I'll catch you if you fall. I'll catch you if you fall. Fly high into the sky. I'll catch you if you fall. I'll catch you if you fall.
Now, here's your host, DJ Host with the Most.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the latest episode of Snap Decisions. This is your Snap DJ, your host with the most. And we are back to have another episode of the show. Got a lot going on today. I am calling the double dose. And if you've watched the what is it called? The one with the Fokker family and stuff like. If you ever watched that, you'll know what that reference is for. But we got a twofer going on today. So basically, we got the regular pod, which I'm doing now, a little bit earlier than I usually do, and then later this evening at 7:15, I've got Lauren Whatevs coming on the show. We are going to talk, obviously, about Snap, but we're going to talk about some other things as well. We both are fans of Nintendo, and we are going to give our top 5 Nintendo games of all time. Top 5 favorite Nintendo games as part of that show, but also just fun chatting with Lauren. I've had her on many times on the show, and she will return. And we'll talk about lots of stuff. Like I said, we'll talk about what's going on in Snap. We'll talk about the future of the game. We'll talk about a lot of that stuff and what is fun in the game right now. Maybe what is not so much fun. So that will be out on my YouTube channel later this evening once that gets published and sent out there, which will probably be 7:15, 8:15, probably after like 9:30-ish, I would imagine. It'll be out on the channel for you guys to be able to go check out. So please make sure you do check that out. It'll be a good conversation and will be available on my YouTube page later tonight. So go check that out. Sub to the channel, like the video, comment on the video as well. It helps out big time. So make sure you do that. I will have that available on audio as well a little bit later this week. And then I've got another guest coming on, and that is Burb will be on shortly, and so will Kier Nimbus as well. So make sure you check out the YouTube page for some action over there. As far as today goes, it's kind of a quieter week. The biggest thing was the Sanctum showdown that, of course, we got. Some changes to some cards and that kind of stuff with the OTA and that, but it really just seems like the trend right now is that all of a sudden the zombies are better. Now, I haven't played the deck. I still think it's very vulnerable to certain cards. And, the ones I've played against, I've easily been able to pretty much take them down with a Shadow King and also with a Cosmic Ghost Rider, which I've been using a lot. So to me, it seems like the most prevalent decks out there right now are Destroy and the zombie decks. Destroy, a little bit harder to deal with. I've switched an armor into my deck to counter it. And also the Shadow King as well will help against it, but a little harder to deal with if they get going. So if I see it, doesn't it just always seem, or is this just me, that Destroy just seems to always get the cards that they need, right? First turn, whether it's the Deadpool or whether it's the Agony, then they get the Deadpool and the Headpool and the Moira. You know, it just always seems like they have the cards that they need when they need them. It's very, very, and I'll tell you, when I've had experiences playing, and I'm not a fan of that deck type, but when I've played it, I never see the cards I need. I never see the Deadpool until like turn 3, turn 4. I don't see the null. I don't see the depth. It just seems to me like that. And that's probably part of the reason why I just don't like it. I never see the curve. Never, ever see the curve when I play that deck. But yet when I play against it, almost always do I see that the opposing player gets the curve. And if I see it happening, I don't hesitate. I just retreat. If I see it happening after turn 1, turn 2, I don't even give them a chance to snap. And if they do, I usually just get out because I know what they've got. It's so linear and so very easy to see exactly what's going on. There's no surprise to it. And if they are experienced destroy players and they snap on it right away, then you know enough to retreat. So I can't imagine that those decks are getting a ton of that they're getting a ton of matches where they're winning 4 cubes, because I think it's just that's the thing about it. It's too easy to see what they've got going on. And, if you see it happening within the first couple turns and they get the carnage out and all that kind of stuff and they've got that thing rolling, you just get out. You don't even give them the opportunity to even snap you and take any extra points from you. You just simply get out. And rather than to try to overcome it, overpower it and stuff like that, you're more than likely not going to do it. So you just don't give them any more cubes than the 1. And if they're not confident enough to snap on that, then they're going to have a hard time winning a lot of cubes with that deck, because it's just so easy to recognize exactly what it is they're doing. So yeah, that seems like what the meta looks like and what it seems to be. There's some Dark Hawk spattered in and stuff like that too, but just seems like that. It just seems like that's what's going on. Is zombies, destroy, and Darkhawk seems to be the thing right now. And so not a particularly juicy, exciting meta for me. I'm not a fan of I never was a big Darkhawk player. I'm not a big fan of the only time I've really played Darkhawk is when the RSM decks would get very, very, very popular. And then it's a very good choice against that, because you're going to get the Darkhawk's just going to be huge. The Cassandra Nova is going to be huge. And so, but this meta isn't, not really thrilling me right now. It's got so many deck types in that I'm not a fan of. I just had somebody play me with that Joaquin Torres deck that I saw in KM Best list, where you place all the zombie stuff into the Joaquin Torres and it just keeps doubling what you're doing. I beat the deck. I didn't really have any problems with it. I think a lot of the stuff that's going on in Snap right now is people are net decking a lot, and they're just taking, like players that are low collection level, which I'm seeing a ton of, have an easier time playing these decks like Destroy and everything, because the cards aren't hard to obtain. And so do I blame them for that? No. I mean, they're just easy decks to make because the cards are just easy to get a hold of. Most of those Destroy decks have been together that way, except for maybe Headpool and some of the smaller editions like Moira X to them. But that deck has been the same card list since the beginning of Series 3. So it's just a very easy deck to play. It's a very easy deck to get cards for. And when that becomes popular in the meta, I don't know. To me, it's just boring. It just makes for a very, very boring meta. And it just seems like I've watched higher infinite players like Dexter and stuff like that, and I find them playing, and then they're playing against a standard Destroy list up high in the infinite ranks. So it's just what it is right now. They are giving a lot of love to Destroy. I don't know what. Earlier this year, it was a lot of love to Move. Now it's a lot of love to Destroy. And in the next couple of months, Now it's that the Weapon X series is going to be a lot of love to discard, destroy. So it just seems like they're staging the meta with a lot of cards that are giving love. Now the zombies, obviously, that's the theme of this month. And so they're obviously gonna want people to play that. I mean, that's how they sell season passes, and that's how they, So that of course is going to be something that's going to take place. So if you're not a real fan of the zombie stuff, it's probably not the season for you. I'm kind of looking forward to Spider-Man because at least we're getting a variance next month. When they go with a theme that covers a character, that's when they kind of, it varies it up a little bit because you'll get something for everybody. You'll get, you're getting some move cards with Spider-Man, of course, because that's what it is. But, they're varying it up a little bit. When they target certain deck types and they kind of force the meta into a deck type archetype that has to be played, at least for me personally, and I don't know about you guys, but for me personally, that tends to make it boring a little bit to me because they're forcing you to play into certain deck types and they're making those deck types better. And if you refuse to do that, then you have to come up with something that's really good that's going to counter it, or it's just tough. So anyway, that's just a little early on piece there. Not really part of the spin or anything like that, but yeah, that's just my kind of thoughts on where the game is right now, and where we're at. So, but anyway, in the show today, I'm going to in the spin to start the show, I'm going to do something a little different, and that's going to be more music related because I had, obviously we had the death of a musician who is very meaningful to me because I was such a huge fan of the band that he was in and stuff like that. So in the spin today, I'm gonna talk about that particular musician. If you don't know who I'm talking about, of course, it's Ace Frehley from the rock band Kiss, who I've been a fan of and a big fan of since I was 6 or 7 years old. When I first heard them introduced to me by a friend of mine who had records from them even before I did. My best friend growing up when I was a child, and she was a year older than me, so. But I was introduced to the band by her, and I have been a fan ever since. And so when a person like that, one quarter of that band, and he wasn't in the band recently, obviously. They had their outs, and as it happens with, many bands, a lot of the bands that you're fans of don't keep the same lineup throughout the course of their history, because it just, there becomes many different things, animosity and infighting and stuff like that. And look, when you look at bands from that perspective and they're together still after all these years, that's a credit to the individuals in the band themselves, because there are marriages that don't last nearly as long as, as certain bands do that for that are together. It's just a thing. It's an accomplishment to them when you see that they're all the same members of the band that have lasted for this long. And of course, Kiss has gone through several changes to the lineup over the years. But anyway, yeah, I'm gonna talk about that in the spin today. So I understand it's not Snap related, but I have said many times before that this podcast is a lot dedicated to my DJ history and the music and stuff like that, and that's going to kind of take precedence in the spin today. But we're also going to continue to chat about the normal stuff. I've got some. The request line today is going to have some polls that I put out there. We're gonna take a look at those and see what people are thinking about this zombie season, and some comments from that. Going to go into the Snap talk, and of course we'll talk about my week in Snap and stuff like that. It was a lot of Sanctum and a lot of Conquest because I wanted to get enough points in to get that Bishop card, which I will get today. And then, of course, talk about the normal stuff in there and the variants and decks that I've played and this and that. We'll go into the card that we're getting this week, and that is Zombie Captain Marvel. That card may not necessarily be a one that you would have to include with the zombies. It's one of those ones that you could, I think, kind of maybe play without them, and it could be good without them. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that in comics as well, and we'll get into all the other comics and stuff that I've read this week and things that are going on with the comics world. How I had mentioned that they were ending one of my favorite books many times, and that's the Ultimate Spider-Man. But they're not just ending that; they're ending the whole line of Ultimates books, and they're going to come out. They have a comic coming out called Ultimate Endgame, which is going to end that whole line, which actually caused a little bit of a stir at Comic-Con when it was announced that was happening. And as to why it's going on. So because it is popular, but it is coming to an end. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about some stuff in the MCU Minute, and again, some news coming off of Comic-Con, news about next year's schedule for Marvel TV and things like that. So we'll talk a bit about that. More news about Spider-Man as well, and its connection to Daredevil, and also Sadie Sink was seen on the filming set, and people are wondering exactly who she is going to be, and I've got an idea about who I think Sadie is going to be playing in there. So, and then we also had a scene filmed with Mark Ruffalo and Hulk, and how he got taken away in an ambulance of all things. So I kind of think I know a little bit, of course, prediction-wise, about where this film is headed. I at least from some of the stuff that I'm seeing and some of the scenes that are being filmed and things like that, I think I kind of have a better idea about where they're going with this Spider-Man. And so I'll tell you guys what I think, some predictions that I think are going to happen from Spider-Man and stuff like this. We'll get into that in the MCU Minute. And then, of course, we'll finish up with the lyric, Dazzlers Lyric Challenge, and someone got that very, very quickly this week, and I kind of figured that would be the case. It was a bit of an easy one, but yeah, I'll get into that in just a little bit too. So, okay, I'm going to start off this week with some sad news. Now, I had heard rumors about Ace Frehley having an accident, and here, it wasn't really reported as to what it was. People were just saying that it was an accident that he had, where it was a medical concern and things like that. And of course, they don't make things like that public. And the biggest thing that happened is it canceled his shows and his concerts and stuff like that he was doing. And then it came to pass that he had fallen in his studio. And in fact, now it has been heard that he fell twice in his. Now I don't know if both were in the studio, but two falls had taken place, and it resulted in him having a head injury, which ended up being a brain bleed, which obviously is very, very dangerous. When you have that happen, it's can happen from a fall, a concussion. This is why, like, if parents talked about, I remember my parents growing up had said to me many, many times, they kind of drummed it into my head that if I ever fall, and this is when I was a kid, to always tell my parents that I've done it, because, having a head injury can be a very, very serious thing. And so if you ever run into that, don't take it lightly. If you fall and you hit your head, or anything like that, don't ever take it lightly because it can be very dangerous. So always, always, always get that looked at. Do not go to sleep with it. That's not my parents always would tell me that too, but that is certainly not something to mess around with. If you fall and always get it checked out, because you just never know. And apparently, so this brain bleed caused, where, Ace ended up in the hospital. And I really don't know that. I don't know if he ended up in the I would imagine that he ended up in the hospital right away from it, not long after that, I guess the timeline, I don't know exactly, but he was, ended up on a breather and a breathing machine. And of course then, I guess the conditions never improved. And, from what I can understand, a week or two later, was when his family had to make the choice and the decision to take him off the machine because he wasn't responding, I guess, to any sort of treatment. And yeah, so they made the choice to do that this past week. And that was when he officially had passed away. Surrounded by a lot of his family, all of his family, of course, and friends. I did find out that Peter Criss, who was the drummer for Kiss for many years, and then of course, him and Ace got back with the band on that little reunion tour thing that they did when they put their makeup back on, and they went out and played a bunch of dates together. But as with many, many things where these bands try to do this, get the old band back together, try to reunite and do this reunion thing, it didn't really last. Because the animosity, the anger, the stuff that was there that kind of led them to not stay together for all the years it crops back up, and it didn't last. So, but anyway, Peter was always very good friends of Ace, and so Peter was there as well. With Ace's family. So that's kind of nice that Peter would, and Peter always seemed like a good guy. I get it that they didn't get along very well. And I think the thing with Paul and Gene was, and I'm not going to say any of them were wrong. I'm not going to say I'm not going to go into that and say who's right and who's wrong, because you just never know. That stuff's not really disclosed to the public. You're going to hear mostly from Paul and Gene because they're the two big names in the band. And they, their opinions on it were saying that Peter was always looking for the extra money, the extra buck, wanted a lawyer around with him all the time, and always had, like, if decisions had to be made by the band, they always had to go through Peter's lawyer and stuff like that. And look, I get it. Gene and Paul were the guys that were always making the big bucks. They were the ones that were always getting the money. They were the ones who ran the band. So I get it. If Peter and Ace signed up for a reunion tour, that Peter would want to get the most that he could out of it. I get that. I'm not begrudging him for doing that. And, and the same goes with Ace. So I'm not going to go into all that. That you can certainly watch any sort of documentary that is out there about Kiss and find out exactly what happened to cause a lot of the breakup of the band and stuff. But it was just nice to see that Peter was there. Of course, after the announcement was made, Paul and Gene did come out with statements and stuff that they made. I like Paul's post that he put out because it was a very sweet post, with a picture of him and Ace in a hotel room, black and white photo, and he said this was his favorite moment that he ever had with Ace, which was very, very nice and very sweet. Gene put out a post which I thought was a little more, a little more like. Okay, it was a post, right? But it didn't have much. To me, it wasn't very emotional. Didn't show a lot of emotion. But again, Gene is Gene. I watch these guys on podcasts now. They They're on a lot of different podcasts. I just saw Gene on David Duchovny's podcast. Paul, I saw on an interview, many interviews recently with Billy Corgan from Smashing Pumpkins. I saw him on Richard Marx. Richard Marx, the singer from the 1980s, had a podcast where he had Paul in there. To me, Paul is more emotional. Paul opens up a little bit more. Gene is just very business-like, very stoic, very much about what he's about. And these are 70-year-old men. So, I mean, I'm younger than they are. I'm 16, 17 years younger than them. And, I guess when you get to be that age, you're going to speak from, you're just going to speak. Everything that comes out of your mouth is just going to be, and I'm sure I'll be like that too at some point someday. But everything that just comes out of your mouth is just going to be centered around you. And centered around your family and stuff like that. And look, I understand that. I 100% understand that. So, but that was my thoughts on the responses that they got from Gene and Paul. I can't say I'm surprised because I've watched so much stuff about Gene now that I know what to expect and stuff from him and things like that and what to expect from Paul. Paul was always my favorite person in the band. And to me, is he businessman-like? Sure. But I also think I could see, from the things I've seen and heard from him, I think his emotions come out a little bit more. And I kind of like that about him because it's a little bit easier to relate to somebody who's a little more emotional and things like that than it is to someone who is, and I'm not saying Gene doesn't show his emotion. He shows a lot of emotion for his mom. Growing up and stuff like that. He gets teared up sometimes from that for his family. So his head is where it should be at this point in his life. Is he concerned all about money? Sure, he always has been. But I did like the response that I saw from Paul about Ace's passing. And I'm sure that whatever their family decides to do, Ace's family, whether he decides to have a funeral or whatever, I don't know. I didn't read anything about that, but I'm sure they will all be there. And Gene expressed how it was very sad that Ace couldn't get to, because they are getting honored by this thing that our president is doing, and they're going to be at the Kennedy Center. They were going to be honored there. And, Gene had brought up the fact that it's just sad that Ace won't be able to be there. And yeah, it is. But yeah, so the announcement was stunning to me. Like I said, I did hear about the fall, but I didn't know to that extent. I didn't know that it was that bad. And the memories for me, I go back to my childhood with my best friend, and her and I grew up together and loved the band. We were enamored by them, like many kids were back in our age group, because they weren't just a band; they were superheroes. In fact, they were in a comic book. One of them, Marvel did 2 special comic books with Kiss. Stan Lee got involved, and Kiss put their own blood in the comic book ink. That was one of the things that they did, and so they were very important to me. Growing up, I had Kiss costume. I went dressed up as one of the members of Kiss. It might have been Gene, I can't remember, but it was one of those Ben Cooper costumes that I had. I had a lot of Kiss stuff. I had a Kiss lunchbox. I had, this is aside from the records that I listened to. I had posters on my wall. One of those, one of those kind of ones that were like neon colored that had felt on it, which you bought a lot at our age back then. I had Kiss dolls when they came out. Mego made Kiss action figures that were 12-inch, large action figures. I had Paul and Gene's action figure. So I had a lot of stuff growing up. I had those comic books that I mentioned. Although I never could get the first one. The one that was advertised that their blood was put in. I could never get a hold of that. It was so hard to find. But I did manage to get the second one in that series. In the first one, Doctor Doom was the villain in it. And in the second one, it was kind of like an evil sorcerer kind of a guy, but he he was made up for the comic itself. He wasn't anybody from the Marvel universe. But technically, they could end up putting, now I imagine they would have to get the rights from Kiss to do it, and I think their rights have been sold to a different company now, so it'd probably be very difficult to do. But technically, they could be characters in Snap, since they were a part of Marvel. Although, like I said, I doubt that'll happen because they would have to pay Kiss's right. The company that owns the rights to the characters now, that bought the catalog from Kiss recently, and that are doing this big Avatar show that they're building an actual arena for, in Las Vegas and I think in Japan, are going to be the two sites for it. But that's coming in 2027. And when that happened, they sold off their likenesses and stuff like that. So I would imagine that, Marvel would have to get the rights to do it. And I doubt they're going to pay for that right now. So, I don't see that happening, but they were a big part of my life. I mean, I can remember my friend Kim, her and I would, as a lot of kids did back in the day, because listen, we didn't have the cool toys. We didn't have all the props and things that you could use to play make-believe back then. There is so much, that is so much easier to do now. Cosplay and things like that is so much easier to do now than it was when we were growing up. So, we kind of separated into the band members. Kim took a shine to Ace. She would always be like when we would pretend, do the make-believe stuff and pretend we were Kiss, she was always Ace. And I would either be Paul or Gene. And we talked her poor sister into being Peter because no one else wanted. But we would play make-believe from the comics where they were superheroes. And I can honestly remember one day where we literally raided her mom's makeup cabinet. And because again, now there's sets of makeup out there that you could buy that has all the stuff, or if you want to dress up as a member of Kiss, it's all there. You could paint your face white, do the colors, all that kind of stuff, do the bat symbol on Gene and the star on Paul. And I could literally remember once, and I don't know how old we were, I'm guessing 9, 10, and we raided her mom's makeup, and we literally painted our faces, and we walked around town. Not a care in the world. Did we give a damn if we got made fun of? Absolutely not. And back then, you had people that either liked the band or they hated them. And a lot of the kids at that time were wearing jackets for Led Zeppelin. They were listening to Bad Company. Some of the bands that were very prominent and popular in the 70s. So, there were some people that liked Kiss, but there were a lot of people that didn't. And, the people who were listening to Zeppelin and listening to Rush and things like that, they weren't fans of Kiss, probably. So for us to go and do that, it took a lot of balls because we get made fun of. Sure. We walked over to the local playground. There were kids over there and then they were laughing and making fun of us, but we just didn't care. We didn't care. And so, I remember contacting her. Her and I still talk via social media. We don't get to see each other as much because she just lives in another part of the country. And her and I also were able, when Kiss had their very last show in Madison Square Garden, both of us got the pay-per-view and we kind of sat and we chatted with each other throughout the watching the concert. It's a thing. It's a bonding thing. And it's a thing that, her and I will always share. And growing up together and stuff like that. And of course I reached out to her and told her that Ace passed away. This is just something that growing up with, and and things that you're going to have from your childhood are always going to be there. And when these celebrities, musicians, whoever it is that has affected you, and I'm sure all of you that are listening to my podcast have someone in your life, whether it be a celebrity or a musician or something like that, someone that has affected you. And maybe it's someone in Marvel, in the MCU. Maybe it's an actor or an actress in Marvel that has done it, that has been, in your life. Maybe it's been Robert Downey Jr. for Iron Man, or Chris Evans for Captain America, or Elizabeth Olsen, Scarlet Witch, whatever. You're going to have that person in your life that has affected your life, that you have done some things in your life, that you cosplayed like them, you've gone to conventions, you've met that person. And another person for me was Carrie Fisher, because she was my first crush. When I saw Carrie Fisher in Star Wars, when I was 8 or 9, she was that to me. She was my first crush. She was the princess, the beautiful princess that I saw in a movie when I was 8 years old, that I got enamored with. And I could have had a chance. And oh my gosh, do I regret this? Guys, I'm just going to tell you this. If you ever have a chance in your lives to do something that, like to meet a person like this, to meet your heroes, my gosh, go ahead and do it. Because if you don't, you will find that you will regret it. So if there's anybody in your life like that you have an opportunity to go ahead and meet. And I could have stood in a line and met Carrie Fisher at a Star Wars celebration that I went to, was Star Wars Celebration 2, that I went with a friend of mine to Indianapolis, Indiana. And I could have stood in a line that had taken most of the day. But now I highly, highly regret not doing it. And that's why I know I've told you guys about the fact that I'm going to get a chance to meet Gillian Anderson, another one of my favorites. And I am so grateful that I'm going to be able to do that. Grateful to my daughter for getting me the ticket and stuff like that. And grateful that I'm able to physically do it. Because if you don't do those things, another one I missed in my life, one of my heroes in wrestling was Bray Wyatt. And of course, he passed away so young, and I had an opportunity to go and see him and meet him at a meet and greet, and I didn't because of my physical state, and I just couldn't do it. And again, I completely and utterly regret it. So if you have a chance to do those things in life, absolutely take the opportunity and do it. Because it's important. And the fact that, now I've never met any of the members of KISS. They're getting to the point where they're a little more accessible now. Gene Simmons is going to be at a convention. I think that's in New York, New Jersey area. Paul is now doing kind of like meet and greets, but mostly for his artwork that he does. He goes to like places where he does these art gallery things. Where you can go and meet him. And now, of course, Peter hasn't really been available. And Ace, boy, I'll tell you, I known, I've never seen Ace doing solo shows. I did manage to see him when they did the reunion tour with KISS. So he was part of the band then, Ace and Peter both. But had I known this was going to happen, Ace played in a concert recently about an hour away from me, and I would have gone. Didn't really think twice about it. I never really had plans on going. In fact, I didn't even know he was there. But I could have gone to the Allentown Fairgrounds, which is, like I said, about an hour from me, to see him. And now, I'll never have that opportunity again. So when you get the opportunity and to see these people, absolutely 100% take it if you can. But when I heard about it, I was shocked. I knew of Ace's past, and I knew that he had drinking problems. He admits that. maybe drug problems as well. That I don't know. But I knew that he had those issues. Before he put out his first solo album, which I absolutely loved, he had a band called Frehley's Comet. And now his first solo album was the solo album with Kiss, which I'll get into in a little bit here. But, he talks about it. He talks about how he was in a car accident, a bad car accident where he could have died. And he didn't. And he talked about that as a moment where he really got, he got cleaned up. He got sober because of it, because, not only could he have killed himself, but he could have killed someone else. And there's a song that he does on his first solo album on Frehley's Comet called Rock Soldiers. And that's what that song is about. The lyrics in it, I was drinking and driving, taking me closer to hell and stuff like that. So, he made a song about it. And, so he did turn his life around. And the people who knew him, that were close to him, really, really loved the guy. So he was that kind of person who attracted friends and people that really loved him and admired him as a guitarist. He had many people that started playing guitar, including my friend Scott, who, Elevate the Sky, who does my theme song, came out and said that he got his start playing guitar because of Ace Frehley. And there's been a lot of people who said the same thing. Ace was an amazing guitarist. When he was in Kiss, he always had such a cool presentation with his guitar, like his Les Paul guitars that he had, that he would play. He would have them have smoke coming out of the guitar when he would do his guitar solo, which was so amazing. And I got a chance to see that in concert too. And that's what Kiss was. They were flamboyant. You're never going to hear anyone say that Kiss was very good musicians. Ace was a great guitarist, so he gets his due. You're never going to hear anybody talk about Gene Simmons being one of the best musicians ever. Same thing with Paul, or same thing with Peter. Ace probably gets the most credit for that. But they were flamboyant, and they were performers, and they knew how to market that band. And, they did things, Gene Simmons with the blood and stuff like that, the theatrics that they did. You will probably never in your life see a better show than seeing them in makeup because of what they did and the things that they did and how they presented themselves was so much different than anybody else that's out there today. And I don't know if there's anybody else even today that I could say. Maybe Ghost, the band Ghost, is kind of following a little bit in their footsteps in a way. But, there are bands that have done things like that, but you are never going to see another band that is going to do the things that they did in their shows, at least in my opinion. So back in 1977, 78, they all decided to go their separate ways a little bit and do solo albums. And when you hear Paul and Gene talk about it, the reason that they did it was because they knew that Peter and Ace, they weren't getting along. So the decision was to say, hey, you know what? Let's give everybody a chance to go out and just do your own thing. Some of the band members they had infighting going on. They were talking about how they wanted to branch out. They wanted to do their own thing. So they all decided to say, okay, let's go out. Let's each do a solo album and let's get it out of our system. So that's what they did. I really like Paul's because Paul's was a lot like Kiss, the most like Kiss, I think, of any of them. Gene's was weird. Gene's had a couple of cool songs, but he was doing like ballads. Like he did a song called Mr. Make Believe that was done by the Beatles. And then he did a song called Living in Sin at the Holiday Inn. It was just, and then my favorite song in his album is the first song called Radioactive. But Gene had some strange stuff on his. Paul's I like the best, but the one that got the most accolades was Ace's. Ace's was just a straight up rock and roll record, and it was just very, very, very good. His song that you may have heard of is a song called New York Groove. that they still use today, and they play when they have like New York sports stuff. When they do, things that involve New York, you'll hear that song being played. And that could be one of the songs he's most famous for. Although he wrote a lot of the Kiss songs that he never sang. He, according to Gene and Paul, really never wanted to sing. He said he didn't really care for his voice all that much. He had a very thick Brooklyn accent, New York accent. But he wrote a song called Cold Gin, which is a very famous Kiss song. They play it at their concerts to this day. Well, not to this day, but when they were, to the very end of their concert life, they played it a lot. And so he wrote a lot of the songs. And they used his songs, but he really didn't sing them. On stage, he would do mostly, I'm trying to think of what songs he did. Shock Me. There was a song that he did called Shock Me that was on an album called Love Gun that he sang a lot in concert. Trying to think of what else. Of course, he sang parts of songs. All the members did sing a part of Rock and Roll All Night. When they got back together after they split up for many, many years and then got back together and decided to go on that reunion tour. They got back on a show called MTV Unplugged, which was Kiss Unplugged, and that was a shocker. It was so cool to see because they had brought Peter and Ace back to the band for the first time in years, and they all just did some songs and stuff together, and it was a very, very cool moment. And then after that, they went on that reunion tour. But Ace's solo album ended up being the one that everybody loved, and I enjoyed it too. And then he went on to be in his own band called Frehley's Comet, which I really liked a lot. The very first album was really, really cool. I liked a lot of the songs on there. And then, of course, their album called Second Sighting, which was good as well. But the song I'm going to remember Ace for, I think, the most, and we'll finish this up because I know I'm going on, and I could talk about Kiss for hours. But was a song on his solo album, and it didn't even have any lyrics. It was called Fractured Mirror. And it made me emotional as a young man because I bought all of their solo albums. But it made me emotional when I was, and again, these came out in 1978, so I was 9. And it made me emotional because the song seemingly to me typified where the band was at the time and how they had kind of split apart to do these albums. And but that's kind of what the song Fractured Mirror talked about to me, spoke to me. And I don't know if that was the intent. I should go and read up on it. I don't know if that was the intent, but Ace making that song to me was kind of like saying goodbye. And Ace, after that, while he did some songs for their next album, which was called Dynasty, and he did a song for Unmasked, from what I understand, at that point, Ace was already lost. He had said that, I'm done. I don't agree with where the band's going. Now, where he really said that was when they came out with the album called The Elder, which has divided so many of the fans, and most people hated it. It was a concept album, kind of like their foray into almost like a Dungeons and Dragons kind of story. I liked it, but not many people did. And now it's kind of become a cult classic, but that was really when Ace said to the band, that's it. I've had it. I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. But I think Fractured Mirror kind of said to me that, okay, Fractured Mirror, fractures in the band, fractured, and listening to that, how the song starts with the guitar, and then comes in the electric stuff, and then comes in the drums, and then comes in the bass, and it wasn't Gene and Paul and Peter that were playing it, but to me, I think that signified that when the guitar just started at the beginning, and then all that other stuff came in the middle, and then it faded out, and then you just had Ace playing at the end. That just spoke to me as saying that, yeah, that's his goodbye. And I don't know if that was how it was intended, but that's how it spoke to me. And it made me sad. as a 9-year-old. And now when I listen to it to this day, and he made another Fractured Mirror song called Fractured 2, TOO, which was on his Frehley's Comet album. But that's kind of how the way I saw it. And when I heard Ace passed, on my way home from work, I had to put on Fractured Mirror, and I had to listen to that because that was the most emotional thing I think that connected me with Ace Frehley. And I heard so many good things about him as a person, from people who knew him. Eddie Trunk, he's a guy who has done metal songs, and his relationship with Kiss. He was really never a fan of Ace and Pete. He was, but then he kind of got on the outs with them, and then he kind of talked badly about Paul and Gene, and more into the corner of Ace, because he grew to be very good friends with Ace, was very upset when Ace passed, talking about what a good guy he was and things like that. And well, I've never got the opportunity to meet him. I'm sure that he was. And all I can say is he was very into science fiction, and that's why he picked the character that he did. He was the spaceman of the band. And all I could say is this, as a close to this, and is that I hope that you are amongst the stars, because that's what he loved. And of course, with his family and his daughter and everybody else, I express nothing but my deepest condolences and thoughts and prayers to them, having lost their dad and their husband and that, like I said, I could just, I'll whenever I look up at the stars at night, I'll think of Ace, because I'm sure he's up there now with Ozzy and with the others that we've lost. And but all I will say is that even though he wasn't my favorite member of the band, he definitely made an impression on this 9-year-old boy with a song that he did that had no words in it, that I'll never forget. So rest in peace, Ace. And yeah. All right, guys. Well, that's the spin, and thank you for allowing me to do that. It was a little difficult there at the end. Thank you for letting me do that on a pod that I know that is dedicated to Marvel Snap and a Marvel game. But I appreciate that you give me the opportunity to have this forum and to talk about things like that are important to me, other than just the game. So, all right. So that is the spin for this week. Obviously, it is very, very tough to lose your heroes. And he was certainly one of mine in my favorite band of all time. So thank you for that opportunity. So, all right, we're going to get into what's up next, and we're going to talk about, we're going to go into the request line, and we're going to talk about some polls. So we're going to do that right now. So the request line today had two questions here. The one was an MCU question, which I don't think anyone answered. But I'll get into that a little bit later, I guess. And then I had this one. So for tomorrow's request line, what do you think about the zombie season so far? Give me your reasons for how you answered the poll below. And how would you have made the Halloween season better if you were a Snap designer? All responses read on a pod. So the poll has fun for the most part. And I put fun and I wrote more brains with a little zombie there. That's at 54%. So it seems like, this is not a ton of votes, 28 votes, but it seems like the 28, out of the 28, more people are enjoying it. Then I had meh, zombies are boring, 36% on that one. And then, so it looks like most people are either enjoying it or kind of meh on it, and not anybody really hates it. 10% said yuck, not into decay. So that's what I got as far as the responses are concerned. A couple of responses on it. Maria says, "Hi, I think the zombie season is fun. Since the last OTA, I have 3 of the new cards. I think the zombie cards are more playable now. And if I were a Snap designer, I'd make the Horde less vulnerable to Shadow King for a while at least." Yeah, like I said, Shadow King just shuts it down. I mean, they tried. They made Shadow King. They nerfed the card, but it's just still just really and if Shadow King is really good now anyway, because as I said earlier in the show, so many people are playing with Destroy, and so that's one of the things that really knocks Destroy down. Shadow King always did. So now the fact that card counters Destroy and the zombie thing, it's just a good card to have in your deck. And I'll talk about it in a little bit more. I don't usually play with it, but I am now. And for that particular reason. Reviews from the Tub says, "I like it. It's fun, but not game-breaking." Yeah, I mean, that's fair. It's definitely not game-breaking. Although I have seen some people, I think Glazer on one of his videos had the zombie deck was now like one of the top decks. But the question is, is it a top deck because it's good, or is it a top deck because a lot of people are just experimenting with it? Now, Captain Marvel just came out. I just got it. That is going to have to be put in some sort of destroy list, it goes back to what I said at the beginning of the show. They really, 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 did I say really enough, are behind destroy for some reason. With all the cards that they've made, and that, I'll tell you what, that archetype had been pretty stagnant, like for a long time. But yet it was never really bad. And it was always being played in certain modes, like Conquest, you saw it all the time. With the Zola Null thing, and with all that it's been played forever, and along like Nimrod Destroy, Phoenix Force Destroy, so it's been played for a long time, but they are really doubling down on giving a ton of cards to that archetype. Really doubling down on it. And I'm wondering why. Let me just get to these last 2 responses, and I'll get to that quick because we didn't get a ton of responses. So I'll go into something someone asked me. Last one was Katie's attorney says we need more zombie cards. Yeah, the way they staged this month wasn't great. To me, I think they should have just had all the Horde cards at the start. The discard cards, this particular card this card here, Captain Marvel, is not really a zombie Horde card at all. This is just kind of its own thing, and the same thing with the 2 discard ones. So yeah, I don't like the way they stay. And in fact, the next week's in the last card of the month, the Century one, probably should have been earlier as well. So the staging on this month wasn't great, especially if they wanted everybody to play with the Horde stuff. And I'll be honest, I think that come the end of this month and the beginning of next month, and the fact that we're getting another Spider-Man season, I think that you are going to see less and less and less and less of the zombie thing. I don't think it's going to continue. I don't think you're going to really see anybody play with it. Unless Captain Marvel today really shines as a standalone card, but I don't think it will because it's got to have destroyed stuff in there. So, I don't know. To me, I don't even know that beyond this, like, you guys can tell me what you think about this, but beyond this season, are there going to be any cards from this season, now the entire season, are there going to be any cards from this season that you personally are going to continue to play? Let me know, because I'll be honest, I don't think I am. I doubt I'll be playing the Horde stuff. Probably again, especially with the cards we're getting from Spider-Man, and then the cards we're getting from Weapon X. I think this season is going to be very quickly forgotten, and it's a shame because I love October. It's one of my favorite months of the year, and I love the Halloween stuff. And I think they should see this falls into the thing where I think they should be taking advantage of the months and the themes behind it and all that kind of stuff. I love the first Halloween season when we got the Man-Thing card, we got Elsa Bloodstone, and werewolf. See, that's cool to me. But I think every Halloween should be like that. And zombies, I get it. They were taking advantage of the Marvel series and everything like that. But zombies are boring. There's only so much you could do with them. I would much rather, and they're coming out with cards now. I just saw them today in the shop. Spirits of Vengeance. Okay, that's pretty awesome. Yeah, I mean, you have comics right now that are in Marvel that are technically horror comics. You have, like I was telling you guys, that new Hulk series is technically a horror series. You know, anything with Ghost Rider, the last Ghost Rider series I read, very horror centric, like horror elements, horror movie elements, blood and guts and stuff in that, like that, you know, but that to me is what Halloween themed month should be. Now I get it. Zombies were always a big thing, you know, but I also kind of think that people are kind of zombied out, right? We as, you know, in pop culture, we are, I think everybody's kind of over it. You know, even the last, 28 Days Later film didn't do all that good. I think people are over it. I think Walking Dead was kind of the peak of that. When we had all the zombie movies coming out, what was the one where the zombies were running, the one with Brad Pitt. We had that movie. We had the one with Woody Harrelson, the comedy one with the zombies. We had, you know, there was zombie movie after zombie movie after, and I think people are just kind of over it. And the Marvel Zombies thing happened so long ago. And I know, like, a lot of this stuff that they're doing in series and movies and all that, because stuff got pushed back because of COVID. And they shouldn't have waited to capitalize on the Marvel Zombies episode of What If that just blew up and everybody loved. They shouldn't have waited so long. They should have put that out sooner, to me. Because I think people are just over zombies. I just don't think that, you know, bring back, like, I don't know, we're going to see. We have a Frankenstein movie that's coming out by Guillermo del Toro that looks pretty good. So maybe, I mean, to me, I was always a much bigger fan of, like, vampires, even werewolf movies in the past. I was always a fan of those, like The Howling and Wolf and you know, American Werewolf in London and all that. I was a fan of those. But zombies are, I don't know, I think they're very passé. And I think that that's part of the reason why that maybe this season just became a little bit meh. Because, yeah, so there's only so much you could do. And when you have it centered around a central theme like this zombie horde stuff, I don't know. So, all right, well, anyway, thank you for the replies to that. And so that was the request line. But in this one here, I'm going to save this for the end. I'm going to save this for the MCU minute, the thing I asked about Sadie Sink, about getting a first look at her and stuff like that. I'll get into that later in the MCU minute. So let's move on, and we'll go to the Snap Talk portion of the show. When the iPad always dies. So we'll get into that. Oh, how about Snap being down? Yeah, I meant to mention that in the spin. The game was actually down. I was panicking, man. I literally thought that, because when I did it, or when I noticed it, it was later at night, like it always is usually when I play. But it was right kind of after I got the code off X from Burb about the new Wolverine signature card that they're giving for the anniversary. By the way, if you haven't gotten it, it's available in the web shop. Pretty cool. It's just it's the normal Wolverine card. They just put a signature on it like they did with Nick Fury some years ago, but it's still pretty cool. And right after I got the card, I logged out and then went to log back in, and the game just kept crashing on me. I'm like, oh no. Was this a situation where I wasn't supposed to get that card yet because maybe it wasn't, you know, because the code did leak earlier out. But no, here it turned out that the game went down. Well, I heard from Safety Blade, so thank you. Shout out to him, because it was late. It was like 3:00 in the morning when I was playing, and Safety ended up telling me that the game was down, and it was because of that whole Amazon outage thing. And knocked out like all this stuff, which is crazy to me, because they're certainly not an Amazon property, but it's just crazy how much stuff that gets controlled by one outage. It's really scary stuff sometimes. You know, I don't know, when I worked in wireless, some companies would have outages, like AT&T. AT&T is bad. They go down a lot, but things like that they could be scary. When you lose that kind of connection to all that stuff. And it was out for, I just went to bed and gave up, and then I got up the next day, and I didn't try to play it until later in the afternoon, and it was still kind of up and down and hard to get matches and all that kind of stuff. And obviously Second Dinner was answering a whole bunch of questions about it at that point. They were saying listen, it's out of our control. But how about that? That's kind of weird, right? It's not something you see a lot, but it's, when it affects that kind of amount of stuff, that's some scary stuff. All right, so Sanctum Showdown is over. This has now become my least favorite of all of the modes. That newer one I liked a lot, which we're getting back soon. I forget the name of it. The last Deadpool's Diner was just overly generous. I don't know if they're going to do that again, but I thought that was the best version of that yet. And regular, but this Sanctum Showdown stuff I just don't like. I got through it. I got the stuff that I wanted to get from it, and I got a variant or two. But yeah, I'm glad I'm done with it. It just, these modes go, as the modes go as people play them go. And what I mean by that is, again, all I saw was net decking. All I saw was people playing Guardians again. All I saw was people playing Sauron, the big stuff, It's just boring to me. And I don't like when these modes get to be just sweaty. I just don't, it's not fun for me. It's more like a chore to play it. And I really didn't have much fun playing this, so I'm glad it's over. I'm glad I finished it up like 4 days ago, and I was like, yeah, I'm done. Cause it's not fun to play. I went over to Conquest this week for the most part because it just wasn't fun for me. Sanctum Showdown is not, I wouldn't be upset if they did away with it. And they keep, having the pull. Oh, look at that. One of the missions today. Destroy cards. Oh, yay. Let's get more destroy going out there. Woo. Let's go. All right. So where I stand, I'm at 94 and 3 out of 7. So I gotta get moving. I'm getting down to the nitty gritty again. I don't want to go through that again. With the collector's vault, this thing is honestly garbage. They really need to revamp this. Every time I open this thing up, I get the same cards. I get the Daredevil card. Now, I know I have a lot of cards, so that probably has something to do with it, but I get the watercolor Daredevil. I get the Kel and the Goo variant of Spider-Man. I've gotten him. I get the Peach Momoko She-Hulk almost all the time. The Tyler Kirkham variant of Juggernaut. I get that a ton. It's just repeats. Like, this is something else I think they need to look at if they're going to continue to do it. Make it, start having to incorporate some more cards. Because I don't know about you guys, but I just keep getting the same stuff. I got an exclusive offer for a variant for the Hunger, which I am not spending $20 on. I have Armed to the Teeth with Bucky Barnes and a new, that's kind of cool though, I guess. A variant Bucky Barnes and a variant for the actual Winter Soldier card, so that's kind of cool. But, not a bad price, I guess. $15. You get 1,600 credits and 700 gold. Twilight Queen, Morgan Le Fay. It's an expensive one, $50, 5,000 tokens. Token Tuesday garbage as usual. And then in my shop today are the Spirit of Vengeance variants, 1,200 gold, MODOK, Juggernaut, and Iron Man. They all have flames and stuff coming out of them. They look cool. Not spending 1,200. The avatars are neat. That wouldn't be a bad idea. The Juggernaut avatar looks kind of cool. He looks like a pumpkin. He's got his head is like shaped like a pumpkin. It's kind of neat. MODOK too is like, it has a skull, like a fiery skull. And Iron Man too, they all look cool. They'd be cool avatars to have, I think, if you were into avatars. So that's what's in the shop. As far as, the iPad crashed. Woo! So, quickly, what have I been watching? I watched a retrospective on YouTube about Battlestar Galactica. The reason that I looked it up is because I wanted to see that, because the guy that does it did one about the 70s show, which is my favorite one. Even though I did like the remake. The remake's fantastic, but I'm still, I grew up with the 70s one, so, but, that was pretty good. He goes through all of it, talking about the plot lines and so on and so forth. It's pretty good. All right, we're back in. So let me go to some cards and then I'll go to some decks. So let's look at some of the newer cards I got. Let's see what kind of variants I picked up. I think I talked about these two last week. Obviously, I got the Zombie Scarlet Witch off the collection track. The Spectrum, they called it the Peach Momoko horror variant. She's got like eyeballs in her eyes. It's very, what's the name of that dude that does all the, Geiger? Is it Geiger-esque? Could be wrong with the reference, but it looks very Geiger horror. With the eyes and the worms instead of inside of her, like in the hair. Very, very, it's creepy. She's got white eyes and the black line coming down. It's a very creepy looking card. And I got the Otto Schmidt hood variant. Now this one has the same demon, so not a demon to match, but the hood's kind of cool. This looks venomized. He's got fangs and everything. It's definitely like a demon. So that one looks cool. I got the Peach Momoko Magic. I like Peach's art. I got the baby variant of Sam Wilson Cap. I got the Pandart Stardust variant. That was a Spotlight variant. I actually bought this one because I don't have many variants for Stardust. Then, of course, I told you about the signature Wolverine for the anniversary. You guys can go get that from the shop. It's a free giveaway. That actually put me over the edge in Wolverine now, too, because I maxed out Wolverine now on the track. So he is now one of my maxed out cards. You want to know why he's maxed out? Because I always say I'm not a Destroy guy. He's maxed out because of how much Galactus I used to play. Because Galactus, you would always include a Wolverine in your Galactus deck back then. Because Wolverine would bounce around, gain a couple things, and he'd end up in your lane. So you'd have another card that was over there with Galactus. So that's why the Wolverine. Almost all my cards are like that. The cards I've mastered, like Death, Wolverine, they were all because I played them forever in Galactus. What else did I get here? Moonstone, the Creative House Pocket Moonstone variant, which is very cool looking. Today, I just got a She-Hulk, the Lyrics Lee variant, which is kind of nice. I like it. She's like smashing out of the card. It looks cool. I got the Bishop from oh my God, the Don Aguillo variant of Bishop that came from Conquest. So I got that. And then I just pulled this one from my Alliance, who again got all the rewards like usual. The super rare Rose Besh variant of Psylocke I got from that. So that was cool. I'm starting to get more 1200 variants, which is kind of cool. And all that really leads me to believe, because normally I just get gold for them, but all that leads me to believe is that I'm probably getting close to the amount of avatars I own too. Because they would just give me avatars for those. And now I'm not getting avatars as much, which leads me to believe I may have just about all the avatars that there are to get, which is hard to, there's so many cards. So, all right, let's look at decks. So we have, this is the one I've been playing, and I'm telling you, I'm sticking to this because this is a counter for not only Destroy, but a counter for zombies as well. This is that same Wiccan list. I changed a little bit of it. Last week I had Armor in here instead of Shadow King, but now Shadow King's back in it. But this is Quicksilver Domino, Mobius, Speed, Shadow King, Copycat. I told you guys, Copycat is fantastic. I don't know why more people aren't playing this card. Because honestly, it will give you snap conditions. When I was playing some Destroy decks yesterday, Copycat hit a null, which is great because you could throw her down at 3 and she's going to gain all the points that your opponent's getting from destroying stuff. Copycat got the Zola, and then I know to snap. I'm like, if I know I'm getting that from you, and I'm going to get, especially the null, and I'm going to get, like it wouldn't be any good if it grabbed to death. It's like, who cares? It'll be a 0-5. But, when you know that you're getting that card that they need, or it's all important to their deck, then you just snap. It's just an easy snap condition. Malekith is in here. It just hides a card away till the end. Wiccan, of course. Cosmic Ghost Rider, which is devastating to destroy and those zombie decks. Lady Deathstrike, same thing. And then First Steps Galactus and Magneto to just move some stuff at the end of the thing. This is the deck I've been playing even through the 90s, and it's working well. This is the Darkhawk deck that I've been telling you about. This is on KM Best Decks list. This is Korg, Hydra Bob, Black Cat, Iron Patriot, Merlin, Quake, Cassandra Nova, Terrax, Negasonic, Supergiant, Darkhawk, and Goliath. So still, Supergiant still seeing play. This is the Horde deck that people are using. Now, again, I haven't really been playing this, but this was on Cam's list too. This is the Hood, Hunger, Nico, Surge, Joaquin Torres, because you just want to play all your stuff on where his lane is. The on reveal of your one-cost cards here happened twice. So you can just keep playing a Hood on him, getting Demons, Nico, all that kind of stuff just gets played on Joaquin over and over, and the Hunger. Zombie, Mr. Fantastic, Kate Bishop, Merlin, Werewolf by Night, just going to keep bouncing all over the board. Zombie Scarlet Witch, Zombie Giant Man to finish off at the end because you want him to be as big as that Horde gets. And then, of course, Cosmic Ghost Rider in here as tech also. So that seems to be the best one if you're going to go the Horde route. Destroy, you're either seeing this played without Headpool or with Headpool. This particular list has Deadpool, Headpool, Nico, X-23, Agony, Carnage, Wolverine, Killmonger, Venom, Deathlock, Nolan, Death. So again, nothing really new with this except for Headpool, and some of them have Moira in as well, along with Deadpool and Headpool. Then we have, how about this? An ongoing list that's doing really well. Ant-Man, Goliath, Ravonna, Renslayer, Sam Wilson's Cap, Mr. Fantastic, Mystique, Captain Carter, Captain America, Moonstone, Stardust is in this. And again, you really want to stop that Destroy. You play Stardust because they are screwed. No Wolverine, no X-23, which that is the engine that runs that deck. If they get and I'm usually inclined, if I see them get X-23 out on the first turn, I'm usually inclined to probably leave the game because they're just going to outgain me in points with the X-23 every time. They're going to get their stuff out that much quicker, which is going to lead to maybe a big Zola at the end or a Nolan Death and a big Deadpool at the end, and it's just not even worth it. Once they get that out on turn one, it's pretty much over. That's why I kind of said, if they ever want to nerf that deck, which it doesn't seem like they do, they should nerf X-23 and make it a 2. And just don't let that get started that early in the game. But Stardust negates all that. No, and negates the Zola too. So it's just a very good card against Destroy. Iron Man and Spectrum are also in this list, but it's just a standard, ongoing list, but apparently it's working out well. I've run into a lot of Thanos, and I don't really understand why. Because the deck really isn't good. I just don't know why people continue to play decks that kind of suck. I guess they just like them. I don't know. This one is from KM's list too. This is a Wiccan Mirage deck. So this is like a mix of a Wiccan / Victoria hand. It's Quicksilver, Zombie, Mr. Fantastic, Kate Bishop, Iron Patriot, Mirage, Vicky Hand, Speed, Silver Surfer First Step, Stardust, Wiccan, Cosmic Ghost Rider, and Galactus. So I haven't tried this one yet, but if the one I'm playing starts to not work, I might go with that one because it seems like it's got some pretty cool options. And then there's I mentioned the other one is the Darkhawk list. This is Korg, Hydra. I talked about that one. Never mind. I'm not going to repeat myself. There's also still a Sauron list going, and this is from Alex Coach's deck list, best decks of the week. This is just a standard Surtur list. There was some funky ones that were playing with Supergiant and stuff. This is just Zabu, Sarin, Zero, Surge, Surtur, Starbrand, Ares, Cull Obsidian, Typhoid Mary, Enchantress, Red Skull, and Scar. Like nothing new. This is like your run-of-the-mill Surtur list that's been around for forever, it seems. And then, of course, End of Turn is still around. A lot of people still playing this. Sunspot, Spider-Ham, Hydra Bob, Black Cat, Dina, Bruce Banner, Havoc, Marvel Boy, Invisible Woman, First Steps, Jocasta Prodigy, and Fantastic Car. My Wiccan deck is able to take care of these a lot as well. I was playing one of these last night, and it was that location that pulls a card out of your hand and puts it on that location, like right off the bat in the game, and it pulled his Havoc. His or their Havoc, sorry. But it pulled the Havoc out first turn. I'm like, yeah, I'm snapping you because you're toast. So, and I did it. I won. They left at the very end. But like the next to last turn, I'm not even sure why they stayed in. You get that pulled out in your first turn, you're dead. I mean, yeah, you can play some of the little cards, but when it comes down to it, you're not getting out your Invisible Woman, you're not getting out Jocasta, you're not getting out any of those with the first turn Havoc being out on the board. So, yeah, I mean, that's around it. Like I said, I got finished with Conquest. I finished Sanctum. I got all the titles in Sanctum. Yeah, I mean, I pretty much finished everything that I wanted to. Now I just got to get over the top in ladder and get back to Infinite, and do that. So yeah, and then as far as the Sanctum shop, I got, let's see, the 50 credits, 100 credits, Premium Mystery Variant, the title, Grossed Out by My Doctor, the MCU PhD title, the Drax emote I got, and I got the Peach Momoko horror variant as well. I didn't get the Enchantress. I've got a lot of Enchantress variants. I like the Sylvie one. And the one for the multiple men emote, I'm like, it didn't do anything for me. So I let that one go. But yeah, so that's pretty much where I am in Snap. And all right, so we're gonna go to Comics Corner here. I'm gonna look up. We're gonna look up Zombie Captain Marvel, but I don't know that I'm gonna spend a ton of time with her on her. Again, she's generally just for the. You can hear me typing on the iPad. So let's look and see. We'll just go over this quickly. Yeah, it's only going to be the cinematic universe here. We'll read about her really quickly. Let's see here. Quotes from the quotes from Friday and Kamala Khan says that is a zombie. Hell no. Speaking of Captain Marvel, I guess. Carol Susan Jane Danvers is a human Kree hybrid who is enhanced with cosmic powers known as Captain Marvel. She got infected with the quantum virus and turned into a zombie on Earth, where Captain Marvel found herself in a constant fight with Icarus at the Valley of the Broken Gods. So, after her infection, she was reduced to a mindless hunter, desperate to infect, kill, and spread the zombie plague to all corners of the universe. However, she was able to retain some mental faculties, as she was strategic enough to remain in her stalemate battle with Icarus. Despite this, she remained steadfast in her hunger and desire to spread the quantum virus, as she was keen on focusing her attention on the humanoids in her vicinity to either infect or kill them. Although she can spread the infection, she seemed primarily focused on killing those in her vicinity like Kate Bishop, who she vapored with a blast. Later, she attempted to do the same to Kamala Khan, but did not succeed. This is all from the new series. Zombie physiology is her powers, was infected with the virus, overloaded her brain's limbic system, turning her into a zombie. Like any zombies, capable of spreading the virus to others by biting or scratching, which would turn them into zombies. Hybrid physiology, cosmic enhancement through her exposure to the Tesseract's power. Via the destruction of the Lightspeed engine, Carol acquired the ability to produce cosmic energies to no measurable bounds and manipulate them to her needs. Danvers was later granted superhuman strength, speed, endurance, and reflexes following her blood transfusion with Kree warrior Yon Rog on the planet Hala, which essentially turned her into a Kree-human hybrid. She was also trained in the arts of battle by the Kree, which had been practiced for years and began to rely slowly on her fighting skills, strength, and photon blasts. She has superhuman strength, superhuman durability, superhuman speed, superhuman agility, superhuman stamina, superhuman reflexes, regenerative healing, longevity, cosmic energy manipulation, energy blasts. And abilities, Master Combatant is extremely skilled and formidable hand-to-hand, having trained for years by Jan Rog, as well as being considerably experienced in combat. This persists even after infection and makes her one of the most powerful zombies to ever walk the earth. Her talents are so immense she can go toe-to-toe with Icarus and entering a stalemate with him in battle. Equipment is her Star Force uniform. Captain Marvel's likeness is based off of Brie Larson. Well, that makes sense. Kamala Khan does not seem to recognize zombie Captain Marvel like Kate Bishop recognized zombie Hawkeye, implying that she never met Captain Marvel before. So that's really it. Again, you know, when they're just limited to the MCU. Now, Mr. Fantastic the zombie has been in comics, but when it's just limited to the MCU, there's really not that much to discuss. So, for the rest of Comics Corner, obviously we're going to look at the shop and see what's in here. But one of the other things I wanted to talk a little bit about here too, and this goes back to the Ace Frehley comic. And, you know, oddly enough, I never looked to see if the Kiss comics were in the Unlimited app, but I guess they're not. It would have been kind of cool if they were. Because I never owned, well, I mean, I own them now. Because I have the reprints, but I never owned the, come on. But I never owned the first one. So it'd be kind of cool to have it, but I guess they're not in here. They're Marvel Super Specials, so they're really not considered. It's not really part of any kind of canon or anything like that, but I'll never forget when that book came out. Oh my God, I searched up and down for it and I could not find it. The only place I could find for comics back then was magazine shops and grocery stores. I think I talked about that on this podcast at one point. But there were no comic shops around back then, and I could never find the comic. And it sucks because I was never able to get it. Now, I mean, I could get it on eBay and stuff now, but it's expensive. It's like a couple $100. I mean, I've read it. So I know what it's about. The Doctor Doom one, I've read it. But, yeah, it stinks that it's not on here. But it's probably a licensing thing, I would guess. That reason why it's not on here. Yeah. I put in Kiss Band too, just to see if maybe it's under something else. But yeah, no. It's probably because, again, like I said, it's probably just made, you know, it was, could be licensed to the band too. I don't know. But anyway, okay. So let's go to, but yeah, I mean, just talking a little bit about those comics. You know, like I said, Kiss put their own blood in it. They went as like a publicity stunt. They went to the factory when they were making them and they donated their blood, and the blood is actually in the ink. The first one was good with Doctor Doom. They were just like the four members of Kiss. They got teleported into Doctor Doom's realm and they end up trying to fight him and stuff like that. But they all had powers, and that's where that was during the time when they originated the cult film called Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park, which I do remember staying up very, very late at night because I think they stuck that thing on at like 11 o'clock at night on TV here. Basically it was a Kiss being superheroes, because ever since that comic book came out, that's what happened. The movie was so campy and bad, dubbed in voices for some of the band members and stuff. It was bad. But I loved it. As a kid, I thought it was great. They fought basically, robots of themselves that this guy that was in this amusement park, this evil scientist was making. It was just weird. But I loved it. I still have my copy on VHS of that thing. And, but it was just them in their height of their popularity, just doing whatever they could do, to make some dough. And they were making money on everything left and right. But yeah, I loved it. I also had a magazine companion for that I loved as well. And I ended up losing it somewhere. But yeah, I loved that too. And then later on, Todd McFarlane got the rights for them. and was doing a Kiss series. Did a bunch of them actually, which were much better artwork, but made like medieval kind of artwork. Came out with a bunch of figures and stuff like that, action figures that was based on those, and I read them all. So, but yeah, all right. So let's take a look and see what's in the shop for this week. What's new? We have the Marvel Rivals Unleashed Infinity comic issue number 1. Brand new comic. They're always coming out with new stuff. Miles Morales, issue number 10. Bring on the Bad Guys, Abomination. I'll definitely read that. I like those. Issue number 1. Exceptional X-Men, issue number 11. Ooh, Imperial number 2 is finally out. That took forever. I read the number 1. Marvel Knights, The World to Come, issue 2. Astonishing X-Men. Oh, speaking of, is that... No, okay. Astonishing X-Men, Infinity Comic, issue number 41. We got Star Wars, issue number 3, which I've been reading. Death of the Silver Surfer, which I've been reading. Oh, that's cool. Look at that artwork. It has a big skull of Galactus on that. Wow, that's amazing, dude. That's so cool. Galactus is like, you can see his skull and everything. So Galactus is dead. Wow, that's really awesome. Predator versus Spider-Man up to issue number 4. Ultimate Black Panther, which, as I said, will all be coming to an end. Issue number 18. Eddie Brock Carnage, issue number 6. The New Champions, issue number 7. Spider-Girl, issue number 2. Ultimate X-Men, which also coming to an end, issue number 17. New Avengers, issue number 2. Deadpool and Wolverine, issue number 7. Giant Size House of M, issue number 1. It's Jeff, Halloween, issue number 2. And the Marvel Rivals Infinity comic is up to issue number 24. So, alrighty then. Let's see. I got a little email here. Look at that. I got a Marvel Rivals subscriber exclusive free in-game spray of Galacta. Galacta emote spray. I don't play the game. I tried once, and it falls underneath that whole, I get a little motion sick. So it's a shame. I would have liked to have given it a shot and played it, but can't do it. Can't do it. All right. So we're going to move along, and we're going to go into the MCU Minute. And again, guys, as always, I know I say this every week, but I really value all of your comments and opinions. I know I got a really cool comment over on X about somebody who just started listening to the show and everything like that. I'll have to go bring that up. It's always cool to hear from you guys, no matter where it is. I really appreciate it. And, if there's things that you really like about the pod, let me know that. But also, let me know if there's things that you kind of think are just kind of meh. Maybe there are areas of the pod where you kind of tune out a little bit. Like the comics thing, it's always going to be part of my thing. I will always talk about comics, but I don't necessarily have to do as long of a background on the characters as I do. So if that's a place where maybe you tone out a little bit, I find when I'm listening to it, sometimes I'm even fast forwarding through that section a little bit sometimes. So if that's something that doesn't really hold your interest too much, let me know. Let me know that. I would appreciate that, because maybe I'll just make that a little shorter. Go over like the ins and outs, go over the origin a little bit, and what comics you could find them in. But, maybe I won't just go into such detail with it if that's an area where it takes a little long. So, but yeah, let me know. I'll always value your opinions and stuff, no matter where you're able to give them to me, whether it's on X or my Discord or Blue Sky, wherever. I always value the opinions. And also, request line stuff, always send me that. Whether it's questions, whether it's concerning anything, comics, Marvel Snap, the podcast, whatever the case might be, let me hear them. I'm always interested. Okay, Marvel Studios, this is from the Direct, releases a historic poster showing Thanos' Phase 6 return. A historic poster, a historic Thanos-featured Phase 6 project was recently released from Marvel Studios on Disney+, and alongside it was the first ever 3-part official poster. Marvel Studios has been a force on Disney+ since WandaVision premiered on the platform. However, the brand has particularly dominated 2025. So, to commemorate the release of Marvel Zombies as the second Phase 6 series, Marvel Studios released a 3-part poster that highlighted a lot of the show's zombified heroes and villains, including Thanos, Captain Marvel, Scarlet Witch, Hawkeye, Abomination, Wasp, and Hank Pym's Ant-Man. Instead of a traditional poster where the aspect ratio makes it appear taller than wider, this particular poster is the opposite, but it was created that way for a reason. Instead of the official image only being one poster, it also has been broken apart into 3 separate. It can act as one giant poster as 3 separate ones without the image being changed at all. For example, the left third showcases Thanos, whose massive cliffhanger was finally resolved. Most prominently with his Infinity Gauntlet being the main centerpiece on the bottom half of the poster. Behind him are other zombies and notable characters like Abomination. The middle third has Wanda Maximoff standing far away, but it's still clear she's the main character. Okoye, Captain America, and Hawkeye can also be seen. However, it's worth noting that Abomination's left arm is visible on the left side of the screen, showcasing how the poster is only one part of a larger image. Right third focuses on Captain Marvel and Hank Pym. So that's cool. They did a Marvel Zombies villain poster. Marvel, okay, this is the direct also. Spider-Man 4 set photo reveals the MCU's answer to DC's Jim Gordon theory. Revealed the MCU's answers to the DC comic character Jim Gordon. Tom Holland's 4th solo outing, Brand New Day, in the midst of filming, meant scant glimpses of the superpowered blockbuster have started to trickle out. This has included several looks at the new actors' characters set to debut, like Sadie Sink, Mark Ruffalo, and for the sake of the story, Liza Colon-Zayas. Colon-Zayas was spotted on the Spider-Man 4 set for the first time by fans with new photos of the Bear Star interacting with Holland's webhead circulating online. These first peeks at Colon-Zayas' character have some thinking she could be playing the Jim Gordon-esque character Jean DeWolf. Oh, wow, okay. There's a major comic book story called The Death of Jean DeWolf. Wow, that'd be cool. That's a blast from the past. Can be seen sporting a long brown trench coat and black boots standing next to Spider-Man. His particular costume choice seems to evoke a particular detective vibe, which DeWolf is known for. Debuted all the way back in August 1976. As a key collaborator of Spider-Man for decades, she's known as one of the few members of the New York Police Department who sympathizes with Spider-Man in his pursuits to clean up criminal activity in the Big Apple. So while characters like Captain George Stacy, who is unconfirmed to appear in Spider-Man 4, see Spidey as an enemy, Jean does exactly the opposite, essentially becoming the friendly neighborhood version of Commissioner Gordon. Jean eventually begins to harbor secret romantic feelings for Spider-Man. However, given the age difference between Colon-Zayas and Holland, that likely would not be adapted for the MCU epic. Instead, she could potentially develop a pseudo-mother-son relationship with a 20-something soup now that his Aunt May has passed. Jean DeWolf theory is a far cry from the most popular name attached to the Bear actress since her Marvel film. Almost immediately after she's announced to be joining Brand New Day, rumors of her potentially bringing to life the MCU's Rio Morales began popping up. That's kind of cool. Real quickly, so this whole Spider-Man Brand New Day thing is starting to seem like, especially with the involvement of the Punisher so much, Sadie Sink's character, I really kind of think I know who she is, and I think she's a Punisher ally. But we'll see. There's one that says that she could be that Wasp Queen from Spider Island. I don't like that at all. Rumors she could be Jean Grey. I don't think that's the case. Rumors she could be Mayday Parker, which I'd be okay with that since the dimensional stuff. But I have a funny feeling she is an ally of Frank Castle, and I'll leave that for you to look that up. But being the fact that she's sporting the red hair also makes me think that she could be, because they did say that someone is with Frank Castle in this. But I think what they're doing, okay, is it seems like, because they're showing a lot of this stuff with the armored car, is that they showed Mark Ruffalo being taken away in an ambulance. But I have a funny feeling that this is involving the symbiote, which would make sense because the symbiote comes in Secret Wars. So that would make a hell of a lot of sense, and they've been teasing it forever. But I think that's what I think the symbiote's going to make an appearance. Scorpion, the actor, is in it from the first Spider-Man, and I think he may end up getting exposed to the symbiote and become this, because Scorpion was the symbiote for a while. So I think he may get exposed to the symbiote maybe first. And then throughout the course of the thing, somehow the symbiote will get disattached and then work its way to Spider-Man. They could go into that whole kind of, like, if you've seen the Tobey films or if you read the comics that Todd McFarlane did, it was when Peter was like very down and depressed, went into that church, and that's where the symbiote attached itself to him. So I think something like that could happen. And maybe, who knows why he would be depressed, like something bad might happen to MJ or, his life is just, because no one remembers him. So maybe MJ just is with somebody else and he's sad about that. I don't know. But obviously Aunt May died, so he's not probably in the best spirits anyway. So, but I think that's kind of where they're going to go with that, which is kind of cool, because then it would give Peter the symbiote for Secret War. And he could even have it going forward. So, but I think I think that's pretty cool. This is from the direct as well. A lot of stuff from the direct. Spider-Man, brand new day, will leave out this expected MCU character. Who is it? Daredevil. Okay, because a lot of people are starting to think that because they said that the Daredevil thing is going to cross over with it. But apparently he's not in it. Because I guess Charlie Cox himself confirmed he is not in Spider-Man. I know they all think I'm in it because I'm filming something in London, which I'm not. I am not in Spider-Man. Okay. So that comes from Charlie Cox himself. He is not in Spider-Man. And here's just a real quick one here to end this. Marvel Studios still needs to give these 7 characters a live-action debut following their animation appearances. This is from the direct as well, so let's see what list they've got here. Blade. Well, Mahershala Ali. God only knows what's happening there. Amadeus Cho. Tombstone. Well, Tombstone is in the Spider-Man film, so he's coming. Uncle Ben. Oh, my God. No, we don't want Uncle Ben. Oh, my God. No. We don't need Uncle Ben getting shot again. The poor guy's been shot enough in films. Nah, we don't need... I still have to laugh at the snap card. Whenever I hear that, and I don't usually put my sound up on the game, but whenever I hear someone play that card and I hear him go, with great power comes great... Ooh! It's hilarious. I'm sorry, but that's funny. And it shouldn't be funny, but it is. It cracks me up. That's hilarious. Uatu the Watcher, a live action Uatu would be cool. Storm, I'm sure we'll see Storm. A live action Rhino. I mean, he was in the Toby or the Andrew Garfield one, but not in this one yet. So yeah, I mean, okay. I guess. But let's see if there's anything else. Boy, this is just all from the direct. Chad Powers. OG Avenger questions future of the MCU franchise. Does anyone really want one? Mark Ruffalo reveals why a solo Hulk film may never arrive. Yeah, that's looking less and less likely. I don't know why. Because I think they got all the rights back for the whole character from Universal, but maybe not. And I mean, Mark's kind of getting up there, like how many more years is he going to do this? And although a lot of it is motion capture and stuff like that now, but it's a shame. I really would have wanted to see like a World War Hulk movie or something like that, but they can always do like Maestro Hulk somewhere down the road, like the future Hulk, and do that without Mark Ruffalo. Maybe he could just lend his voice to it if he wanted to. But yeah, I think that probably is getting less and less likely. And then the other stuff I have is just stuff for the future that's coming to the MCU, obviously to next year. They did put out the slate, and just go into that real quick. But the Sadie Sink thing, she's wearing like a hoodie, probably to kind of disguise what she's wearing, I guess, because it's a real big hoodie. And of course, she does have the red hair. But there is a person in Punisher books who I believe that might very well be. But let's look at the slate for next year. So Wonder Man will make its debut in January 27th of 2026. Daredevil Born Again is March 4th. That's kind of a tentative date, so that could change. 2026. The Punisher special presentation is in spring of 2026. So that's going to be, I don't know if that'll be either before or after Daredevil. X-Men 97, Season 2, summer of 2026. Spider-Man Brand New Day, July of 2026. That's our next film we're getting. Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man is in fall of 2026. So a lot of Spider-Man next year. A lot of Spider-Man and Spider-Verse type characters with Daredevil, Punisher, of course, the regular Spider-Man movie, Spider-Man, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. So a lot of Spider-Man centric stuff. And then late 2026 is Vision Quest. And then, of course, Avengers Doomsday is 2026 of December of 2026 next year. So lots of Marvel stuff going on. I'm sure I'll be talking about all of this. But that is all of your 2026 projects. The OTA real quick. Last week I didn't get to do an OTA review, but we got Invisible Woman First Steps going from a 3.5 to a 3.3. I had told you guys I thought that card was going to get nerfed eventually. I still would have made her a 4. If you really want to nerf the card, make it a 4.3 or a 4.5. Shadow King got a nerf, went from a 2.2 to a 3.4. That's probably to allow the zombie stuff being played. Mobius got nerfed from a 3.4 to a 3.3, so a lot of tech cards getting hit. Zombie Scarlet Witch got a buff from 3.2 to a 3.4, which I don't really think meant a ton. Zombie Giant Man on reveal gets a Horde +2. Rogue goes from 3.2 to 3.3, so I haven't seen more people using Rogue. Firelord goes from 4.6 to 4.7, and Warlock goes to a 3.4. So that's essentially what it was. It was basically done to get you to play, more of the zombie stuff. So. And obviously next week's card is Zombie Galacti. That weird card that I told you was very strange. That's next week actually. And I also wanted to mention this. So video game wise for the PS5, coming to the PS5 because they did have the State of PlayStation happening, and coming soon is the Wolverine game. And that, of course, is the Hugh Jackman, not Hugh Jackman, but of course that's Wolverine. I don't know if Hugh Jackman, that'd be cool if he voiced it, but I doubt it. But the Wolverine game, which they did show preview for, it looks very cool. Spider-Man 3, which is called The End Game, which looks like it's got Silk on the cover along with Miles. So that's cool. That's on its way. And then Venom is also on its way as well. So we're getting a Venom game also. So some big Marvel titles coming to PlayStation next year. Do you want to know what I ordered myself? They made a retro Intellivision, and they're calling it the Intellivision Sprint. I had to get it because this was a game system I owned before I owned anything else. My friend got Atari, and my dad got me this because my dad's work had it, and he was able to pick it up for me for relatively cheap. Video games were expensive back then. Ataris would go for $100 or even more, and that's a lot of money in a time where minimum wage was like $2, $3 an hour. But this thing is amazing. Available for pre-order today, and it's on Atari's site too, which I guess maybe now that means Atari might own this. This upgraded console is the look and feel of the original, so it looks like the wood grain Intellivision, the old school one. Modernized with HDMI, wireless controllers, and 45 built-in games. So it's a built-in system, so no cartridges, but you get pretty much all the old classic Intellivision games built in. They have the overlays for the keypads, if you know what I'm talking about. That's awesome. The wireless controller I think is fantastic, and the fact that it's now HDMI is even better. But I used to play games like Astro Smash. Their sports games on this were incredible. They had a game called Sea Battle, which I love. Shark, which was fun. Their golf game was even fun. Sea Battle. They had a Dungeons and Dragons license game on this system. Night Stalker, which is another good one. It says includes Boulder Dash, Shark, and Astro Smash built in. Also features the sports and strategy games that made Intellivision a rival to the Atari 2600 in the 1980s. So I did order it, and it's supposed to be shipping in December. So that's a Merry Christmas present to me. But that's going to be a lot of cool stuff. The Running Man is back. Very, very cool. So that's kind of neat. Play 45 classic games. Very cool. Let's see here. changes people like to say. This is from V. Laragbon. Followed me on Twitter, and they put out their list of things they'd like to see come to Snap real quick. I want to read this out here. Number one is the went from 5 to 1. 5 different boards. We talked about that. Yeah, for sure. Add more visual variety and more personalization. A reverse location. I thought of this after the new Ghost Rider card. There should be a location where cards are placed from bottom right to top left instead of the usual direction. Just a fun twist, especially since several cards interact based on card order or placement. That sounds cool. Update Ego. Make Ego smarter. It shouldn't just play completely random moves. Had a 22 power Thanos and Ego decided to drop Enchantress when my opponent had no ongoing cards. Seriously? Yeah, that's happened to me. Second Ego should only appear in the first or second location. By round 3, there should be 0 chance for Ego to show up, even from cards that alter locations. No one wants to be in round 5 and suddenly have a Reality Stone create Ego out of nowhere. Yeah, that's true. Draw 2 on the last turn. There are plenty of times where I clear my hand on turn 5 after getting a good energy boost. Then I'm stuck with 1 or 0 cards, basically no options. Just like round 1 gives you a starting hand of 3 plus 1 extra. The final round should draw 1 plus an extra. It would make the endgame more dynamic and strategic. I bet you Hella players would agree with that, because there's many times when Hella is the bottom card of their deck. So interesting. Danger Room is number 1. Please, alongside Conquest and Friendly Battle, there should be a third game mode called Danger Room. In this mode, we could freely practice and manipulate our decks, create an opposing deck, or choose a deck type like Destroy or Move and either control both sides or let the CPU play. There definitely needs to be another game mode. I would agree with you. And that's interesting. Very, very interesting. Thank you for sharing that. Very, very interesting suggestions. Some news just for me real quick. Crystal Lake series has wrapped and it's going to be ready for next year. I am so psyched for that. Cannot wait to see the Crystal Lake series on TV and Jason comes back. So yeah, I'm very, very, very excited about that. So, all right, guys. Well, we're going to get to the lyric was guessed. Ultron pilot on Blue Sky. They've guessed several of them already, but got it right away. Of course, it was Schools Out by Alice Cooper. They got a chance to meet him. That's pretty awesome. I've seen Alice in concert once, and it was amazing. He did Schools Out, of course. Yeah, I mean, he did The Man Behind the Mask, which I thought was fantastic. They had an actor come on stage dressed up as Jason, which was phenomenal. But yeah, Alice is great, man. He's still going to this day doing concerts, and he's still amazing, can still sing really well. But yeah, there was definitely, that's what it was. It was Alice Cooper. No prize to you. I think you got the Spider-Man no prize. So congrats on doing the Guess the Lyric, the Dazzlers lyric out there as well. And I wanted to read out, this is that comment that I was telling you guys that I got on Twitter. Always acknowledge the kind remarks that I get from people on my X. Oh, I put up a post too about another thing with comics about remembering Batman. And when they killed off Jason Todd, and they did that because people called in a 900 number and said they wanted him dead, which is pretty brutal. But they're also coming out with a Batman Nightfall, which I love that story. That's the way Bane comes in. But the story's so good. I read all those comics, collected them all, and I also got the novel. They have a novel for that I read. I just think the story is brilliant, and I'm glad they're doing animated. DC does really good animated stuff, so I'm glad they're doing that. That's gonna be really cool. So let me see really quickly here, and I want to keep you too long because I'm getting to that 2-hour mark again, and I know I said I wouldn't do that, but this one was a special one because of Ace and stuff like that, so I apologize for the length. But let me see if I could find it. So hard to find stuff on Twitter. People responded to the Batman thing. The massive dichotomy, Nick the Greek Geek, the massive dichotomy between the different uses of 900 and 976 numbers is always head turning. Also, we were always trolls. This just confirms it. Deadpool's Changa says, that's crazy. they tried to do Robin dirty. I mean, it is a way to get the public involved in comics too. Wild stuff. It was crazy what Jason Todd went through as Robin. I wrote back, 900 numbers were all the rage. I got yelled at many times when my dad saw the phone bill back then. Yeah, no doubt. I got yelled at a lot by my father because of high phone bills, calling numbers. I didn't call the dirty ones. I didn't do that because there were dirty ones because I knew I'd get in big trouble if I ever tried that. But I didn't call those. But I called some wrestling ones. I called some, yeah. So in any case, I got into trouble. I think it was Deadpool's Changa. Now that I'm thinking about it, that wrote me the nice comments. I'm so bad with this stuff, man. I could have sworn I took screenshots of the comments, and now, of course, I can't find it. But anyway, I thank you, Deadpool Shanga, for the kind remarks. I really appreciate that. And anytime anybody takes their time out of their day to come on to Twitter, which is pretty crappy space a lot of the times, and say some kind things, listening to the pod and stuff like that about that, I really have to take the time to appreciate that. I really do. All right, so we're going to close it out. We got another lyric, another Dazzlers lyric, and we're gonna do this one. And all right, this one came. This is another band I've liked for a long, long time. I had all their albums, all of them, every one. They broke up way too early, at the height of their popularity too, which is crazy to me. But and this particular song, I heard on a Saturday morning cartoon, and it was brilliant. This particular cartoon was something I was big into in the 80s. I loved the cartoon. When it came on, oh my God, I watched it all the time. And they played this song on it, and I remember it distinctly. But this is one of my favorite songs by the band. But here we go. You consider me the young apprentice, caught between Scylla and Charybdis, hypnotized by you if I should linger, staring at the ring around your finger. I've only come here seeking knowledge, things they would not teach me of in college. I can see the destiny you sold turn into a shining band of gold. I love this song too because it's mystical. It fit the cartoon. If you can name what cartoon it is, because now you probably get the song pretty easily because one of the verses kind of gives. But if you could tell me the cartoon it was in, I'd be impressed. But this is cool because it's very mystical, and I love this kind of stuff back in the day, and I still love it today. So there you go. That's Dazzler's lyric. Who's going to get it for the no prize? You can maybe win a Spider-Man no prize, a Black Panther no prize, a Hulk no prize, if you guess the lyric. Thank you all, guys, again, for listening to the show. I really, really appreciate it. A little later tonight is Lauren Whatevs will be on my YouTube channel, and we'll be talking about a lot of the stuff I talked about here, a lot of Snap stuff, ask her opinion about the Marvel Zombie season, and we'll get her thoughts on the game overall. We're going to be talking about other things as well in pop culture like Nintendo. Big fan of Nintendo from the day, and we're going to get the top 5 games that Lauren has played and her top 5 as well as mine. And so join, check out the video tonight. Can't join us, not live, but check out the video tonight. That should be out on my channel around 9:30, 10. So if you're listening to this and you have not gone over to the YouTube page, please do. Subscribe to the channel. Drop a like on the stream. Leave me some comments over there. And if there's anybody that you would like to see me talk to on the YouTube channel, please let me know that too. Within reason, obviously, you know that there's some people who are tougher to get than others. I'd love to have any of the people that I watch. I've had Regis on, which was awesome. I had Nina as Noob is on, which was awesome. I had a lot of creators on that I watch a lot of content with. Of course, Glazer several times, Nick the Greek Geek and others. But yeah, I'm always open to suggestions about who to have on there. I would love to get like somebody like KM Best on there and things. So, but some people are just harder to get in touch with than others. So, but yeah, thank you all for listening. I am a proud member of the Snap Judgments League of Podcasts, which includes, of course, Snap Judgments, Glazer and his guests that he has on weekly along with Roy. Check out his pods. Are always really good. They talk about all the upcoming seasons, the cards, the meta, whatnot. Check out Glazer every single day. He does amazingly hard work for you guys, getting the decks together and stuff like that he shows. So check him out as well. Always a fun watch. And then also Snap on This with Lauren Whatevs, my guest tonight on the pod, and of course Benjamin Roller. Do an awesome job with the pod. It's always fun. They talk about the cards, the things going on in Snap, other things they play, including Hades and other games. Then they do their secret homework and stuff, which is always a lot of fun. So make sure you check that out. That comes out every Friday. Glazer's pod usually comes out either Friday or Saturdays, I think. So, and then of course I'll mention Kier Nimbus as well. He's going to be on my pod soon. And he's kind of taking a little break from the game and a break from his pod, but hopefully he'll be back at some point sometime. All right, I am going to see Tron Ares finally tomorrow. I've been meaning to go. I have heard the bad reviews, but I'll make up my own mind. And maybe I'll review that for you guys. It is a sci-fi film, not really comics related, but maybe I'll give you my review of it if you indeed want to watch it. I don't know how much longer it's going to be in theaters because it's really not doing well. Of course, it end up on Disney Plus probably pretty soon, sooner than later. But maybe that'll be something I'll do on next week's pod. We'll see. All right, guys, have a great rest of your week and Snap however you choose to play it. I hope you hit all of your goals and have fun. Mostly that's what's most important with any game that you're playing. And that's going to do it for me for this week on this pod. Hopefully you'll check out Lauren on the YouTube page tonight. If you don't, it will be out on audio as well. And then, of course, I will have on Burb coming before the end of this week, and Kier Nimbus coming very soon also. Have a good week, guys. Please stay safe. Be kind to one another always, and hopefully I will talk to you all on the next episode of Snap Decisions. This is your Snap DJ signing off.